Hi friends! As you can see today, we are diving into the newly released Phytosurgence Skin Spark Blush Bombs, the Toasted Blushes. I managed to grab 3. These sold out quite quickly and the team was great in restocking them right away. They didn't think they would sell out that quickly, but judging how popular their blush bombs are, just the OG shades, it was no surprise that people would just dive toward the toasted version. And I was thrilled when discovering they were releasing these types of shades because, as you know from my terracotta blush video, I adore that tone, clay, burnt, just very earthy in undertone and in look and feel. I grabbed Evaporate, Sublimate, and Exothermic. I did not grab Condensate because that was on the lighter side, but in this video we will go through not only the swatches, the demos, but comparing them to Singe and Inferno. These two were gifted to me by Phytosurgence, and if it's your first time encountering the brand, Phytosurgence is a Toronto-based makeup company with unique textures and shades. I think if you haven't bought indie or maybe were looking for just a different experience with highlighter and blush, you should definitely check them out. I'll leave their info down below as well as their Instagram, which I would follow just to get the updates, any new products they're developing, and of course the release dates for highly anticipated items such as these, the Toasted Blushes. And if it's your first time here clicking on my face, hi, I'm Alicia, an online coach who specializes in flexibility, strengthening the body, developing habits that can stick with us long term. Okay, but I also love to talk about the makeup, and when it comes to cream blushes, well, there's just no stopping me. A few details on the Toasted Blushes. They each retail for 21 Canadian dollars, coming in 4 shades, and the texture, as I had mentioned before, in whether it was a dedicated video, I cannot recall, is a moussey cream that resembles a soft chocolate truffle in texture. So very creamy, not heavy, almost whipped like. And when applying it on the skin, it melts immediately, but it dries down to more of a powdery finish. So think soft matte, but has still some radiance and luminosity to it, especially if you apply them on top of a more emollient base. For instance, if you went a little more creamy satin with your foundation, or if you went powder foundation, or even just blot it first before applying the Skin Spark, expect the finish to shift a little bit depending on your base. And the colors are just outrageous. I held myself back when I tried Singe and Inferno for the first time. I wanted to buy each and every one of their blush bombs, and I was like, nope. Wait a minute. Thrilled that I waited because the toasted shades are just so unique. Unlike what I have in my collection, there are similarities, yes, but to have them in these creamy texture is just outstanding. Let's start with Evaporate, and here it says AKA Toasted Smolder, which I do want to pick up eventually. That's on the radar. A neutral smoky peach. Think roasted brown sugar milk tea. Exactly this. Definitely for my skin tone, this serves as a one and done, out the door, quick flush of color. I tend to gravitate towards, yes, obviously the terracotta shades of things, but when it's peachy, but more brown peachy, more on the burnt peachy side, which is why I love Mel Cosmetics Cream Blush Light in the shade, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Sandy Cheeks, shame on me. Quick and easy, whether with a brush, as you see, I applied with the Sydney Grace foundation brush. You could also dab it with fingers. A lot packs a punch, but because of the level of pigmentation this blush has, you could probably be a little more liberal if you're around my skin tone. If you're lighter, maybe with a light hand. If you're deeper, they do have 2 blushes that cater to the deeper skin tone spectrum, but I'm not sure how deep from me will be appropriate for this shade. So if you're a few shades deeper than me and Evaporate works on you, let the fam know down below. The next one is Sublimate, aka Toasted Fervor, and these shades, the aka shades, are in their existing blush bomb lineup. So if you wanted to check out those color descriptions just to make a comparison, you can find those online as well. An earthy, tannin-rich, deep cherry tone, reminiscent of a fortified wine. This is interesting because it does does have that berry tone, but burnt, more earthen in undertone, and I absolutely love that. To find still that reddish hue, but it's not too purpley plum. Great, not only for the current season, but will be sublime for autumn, which I cannot wait. That is my favorite season. This summer stuff can kick rocks. I know, controversial. I'm happy they went with a berry tone that's unlike anything I have encountered that I have in my collection, because a lot of wine berry tones are very literal in the blush world, and they have a place. I think they're sophisticated, elegant, very like demure. When the wine tone, however, is more reddish, more, again, tanny in undertone, is incredibly beautiful and can be worn higher on the cheeks, lower on the cheeks. I like to mix this up with Evaporate so you get a really nice gradient. And compared to Inferno, because that is the shade I immediately thought of when I tried Sublimate, Inferno definitely has more of, is a little more red in tone, where Sublimate, I think, has a more literal terracotta hue to it. And I tried to find that comparison here on the footage, applying Inferno to one side and Sublimate on the other. They are very similar, but Inferno, I think, has a lighter red tone, almost like a coral red, versus Sublimate being the more wine red. And lastly, the shade that I was just looking beyond forward to, Exothermic, aka Toasted Inferno, a rich neutral caramelized rose tone with a woody essence. Spiced chocolate bar is an apt description. Boy, oh boy, did they nail this one. Exothermic, when I first plopped it on my cheeks, you might think, oh no, is that going to look muddy? Is it going to be too much? No, first of all, the texture makes it just incredibly easy to blend out. It melts on your cheeks and spreads evenly without any issues. The tone is unique where, yes, it's more chocolatey in undertone, but it's more neutral, almost like a gray. I know gray sounds scary on the cheeks, but hear me out. Like a gray chocolate without looking muddy on the skin. Emulates that toasted earthen look on the face, and I had to compare it to Tower 28's Power Hour. Maybe you were thinking the same thing. Compared to Power Hour, Power Hour has a little more red in it, whereas Exothermic is distinctly more neutral gray brown in undertone. And again, Phytosurgence describes this to be a caramelized rose tone with a woody essence. So I think when I say gray, it's the woodiness of it, but that rose, the roses get me more so. Ooh, will I rank rose higher than peach? This is a philosophically important question. For me, I think rose is incredibly versatile, works across several skin tones depending on the dial, right? In terms of richness and all that. But to have like a woody rose and combining Exothermic with Sublimate or even Inferno, my gosh, or even Evaporate. So these shades just weave well with each other. They create lovely gradients on the skin that don't look overwhelmingly pigmented or muddy. It's extraordinary, and I had such a blast when I filmed the B-roll yesterday, because they came in the mail yesterday and I was like, oh, I need to try these suckers on right now, because I wanted to give you the individual shades as they are by themselves. And in this portion now, I would like to combine them. So you could think outside the box in terms of how you deal with Phytosurgence Skin Spark Blush Bombs. I think you just have the textures and the colors allow for that freedom to experiment, to play. And I think the brand just intelligently formulates these undertones in a way that you won't run into mixing color problems, right? If you feel like you're not apt at mixing colors, you don't know what goes with what, you're fine with these blush bombs, 100%. With all info, swatches, and demos out the way, rolling into the second part of this demo, why don't you come in a little closer? That's enough. On the eyes, I have Viseart's Solstice palette on. I haven't dipped into this for quite some time, but when finally using it again, having this duochrome, and that's what makes it appear like that blue iridescent look under the eyes, I think is so cool. And of course, having these more burnt coral tones for the mattes, lovely bronzy copper tones for the shimmers. Yeah, I'm all for it. And on the lip, I have the Suqqu Sheer Matte Lipstick in the shade 101. This might be a limited edition shade. I'm not entirely sure. I keep losing tracks of the numbers, but I thought this was perfect with Solstice and what's about to go down on these cheeks. And of course, had to slap on Pat's Permagel liner in Structure. So you can see Evaporate again solo, just a quick flush of color, very non-committal, especially if you don't like blush, if you don't like the pinks, the magentas, the plums, even the terracottas. I know. It's okay, I forgive you. This is a great shade just to bring a little bit of life to your complexion. It's not overly pink, but it doesn't just look like my skin tone either. There's obviously something there compared to this side that has nothing at all. On the highlight, I usually use Phytosurgence, but because I'm packing to go today, I use Pat's dual highlighter stick in golden, excuse me. Incredible color. And you could just see how evenly it applied. I like brushes because I think it does ensure the most even lay down, but fingers are totally fine. And it took away any extra shine I might have had. Didn't powder. I have the Rose Ink skin tint on and buffed in a combination of the LYS Triple Fix Serum Concealer and the Say Concealer for the spots that needed a little more coverage. And again, I'm telling you, let's do Sublimate on the other side because, oh my God, amazing shade. Again, I was gushing over just the unique tone of this blush. Now, if you're like, ooh, that's a little deep, always know you can start higher on the cheeks, right? I'm buffing it into the hollows first, and then you have space to bring it down around on the cheeks depending on how heavy you want to go. I also like to bring it around my temples a little bit just so it can look more uniform in application. But look at this. Even though it's wine, we can detect some of the wine. But again, that hue, is outrageous. I absolutely adore Sublimate. I love Evaporate, just the ease and the carefree flush nature it delivers with the color, but Sublimate. And when you see the color in the pot, you're like, ooh, I don't know, man. How it applies on the skin is just heavenly. I'm gonna leave Evaporate on because you saw Exothermic on its own in the B-roll. So Exothermic for me could serve as like a contour, not literally, but because of its undertone, it has that capability, that possibility, right? Just to add a little bit of structure to the skin. But why I love terracotta tone so much is that it's not just a flat contour, right? There's still color there that adds dimension to the face that you could use solo as cheek color and for contouring purposes as well. Because of the shade, I'll go in with a smaller brush, and I like to start this more into the hollows of the cheeks, right? And again, I do have Evaporate here on this side, but the textures layer beautifully on one another. They enhance each other in terms of color. And oh my goodness me, Exothermic added a little more toastiness, as you see, didn't interfere with Evaporate in a weird way. In fact, Evaporate you can still see here on the lower part of my cheeks, but then it gets a little more sculpty here on the higher portion. I really like this shade. I still love Sublimate more because this is just my wheelhouse of terracotta-ness, but Exothermic I think is highly unique. And I find also, if you happen to apply this lower on the cheeks, you're like, I don't know, man, lower on the cheeks, it blends out effortlessly, and the tone, I don't think brings the complexion down. So yes, it might be a little more neutral than what you're used to, especially if you're my skin tone. But Phytosurgence had said that they formulated Sublimate and Exothermic with deeper skin tones in mind. This might appear a little differently on someone who's deeper than me, right, than someone who is my skin tone. But I still appreciate the look. Yeah, I'm happy I bought all three. Don't know, not gonna buy condensate because that does look pretty, but it might lean a little more yellow in terms of the undertone for me. So that's why I'm holding back on it. I rather would get Smolder, that burnt peach, over condensate. Yeah. Just to show you, Inferno maybe on the Sublimate side, so you could get an idea. Yeah, so this looks a little more, again, this has more of a red tone versus Sublimate that has more of that wine berryness tone. Inferno is going to give me a little more flush to the cheeks. And Singe is like my go-to pink shade, where I just want fast one and done moments with my makeup. I actually wear Singe a lot if I'm just wearing blush that day, no eyeshadow, light on the complexion products, and I just need that one and done flush shade that's going to give me life, that's not going to warrant other products. And a little tip here, if you find that you over blush, just have another brush on standby with not additional complexion product, but on its own, just so you could whisk away the edges that kind of bled too far out and everything comes together nicely. And that is it, fam. Very happy with these three toasted blushes from Phytosurgence. I'm glad that I picked them up, and I adore, again, not only the experience when it comes to the formula, the texture, the shades. I think Phytosurgence brings such a unique perspective to the table when it comes to blush shades. Not your usual, and if it looks like the usual, there's always a little bit of a twist. I'm selfish and want to bring along all three. It's so hard to decide. So yes, I'm going to bring all three shades. They fit perfectly well here on the top portion of my little Dagny Dover bag. Done. Do I need all three? Absolutely not. But because I just got them yesterday, I want to dive like head in first to the different combinations and just getting a better hold of the shades. Although I'm filming the video now, I just wanted to get this out because if you had your eye on them and you were figuring out which shades to get, if you're around my skin tone, well, hopefully this helped. Let me know, fam, if you picked up any of the Phytosurgence toasted blushes or any of their originally released blush bombs. I will see you down in the comments, and until then, that is a wrap. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope this video helped, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up or maybe consider subscribing to my channel. And until then, I will see you on here again with another review tutorial, cream blush extravaganza, monthly faves, or blah. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.